Hi guys, just a quick video. One of my subscribers, Dark Little People, sent me a list of questions that she wanted to know about my journaling practice, and she's been so supportive and watches all my videos. I really appreciate it. To be honest, when I first started putting up videos, I didn't really know if anyone would watch them. I just kind of wanted an excuse to go through my old journals and hopefully find some people that liked them, but I found that I wasn't really going through them enough and that it was almost a shame and that I didn't really have a reason to go through them, so making videos kind of gave me a reason. So the first question is, how do I see my journal? It's a place to blank. So I guess it's changed over the years. I've been journaling since I was 12, almost daily, and I'm 24 this year in October, and so it's been like 12 years since I've been doing this. So it originally started kind of as a place to vent and talk about my day. So to recount word for word events and situations and just kind of put things down on paper so I could forget about them. If I was anxious or angry, it was like a space to just put my emotions that I didn't want. So it was really helpful for that. But then when I was able to get my anxiety more under control and I began to use it as a creative outlet more. So I would do creative writing and poetry and descriptions. So I like to describe events. I also do this on my Instagram, mainly my fitness Instagram at Hella Fit Girl, Hella Fit Girl. I write stories about situations that I'm in and stuff, and just kind of creatively describing it, describing what the person looks like and what they say. So that's kind of what it morphed into. And then I heard about the Hobonichi and the Fobonichi journaling community, which for those of you that don't know, the Hobonichi is kind of a brand name version where it's a specific notebook made out of a specific paper, and it's like the brand name, like Target, you know, and it's out of Japan, and it's specifically to draw out your day and write out your day. So it's a brand just for that type of journaling. And the Fobonichi journalers kind of are the knockoff brand, if you will, of that, where they buy whatever notebook they want and just do the same practice with a different notebook. So that's kind of what I've done, is I've taken the whole idea of drawing out your day and writing about your day simultaneously and just put it in my own notebooks that I bought because I prefer the paper in there. So I guess I see it as a creative outlet now, but that's constantly has changed over the years, and I'm sure it'll continue to change as I get more interests and I, move on. But I don't talk as much about day-to-day stuff, and I don't usually vent as much as I used to. The next question is, have I always drawn? I've drawn here and there in my older journals. But mostly it's like if I wanted to illustrate a dream or something that was kind of abstract and hard to describe. So it wasn't very often. I mostly wrote. And I guess it was about, I think I started in college, I started drawing regularly. So that was 5 years ago, I guess, I started to draw in my journals. And have you always collaged in them? So that's kind of another thing. I would print out pictures and I would glue in things that were important to me since I started journaling, like pamphlets of where I've been and stuff like that. But that was about it. I didn't really do any creative collaging until, again, I started drawing in there. I would actually, when I was younger, and I'm kind of glad I did this, I'd print out, even though it's really creepy, I'd print out pictures of people from like their Facebook or MySpace way back when, and just like so people knew, or at least I knew in the future, like, oh, this is the person that I'm talking about, and like especially guys I'd have a crush on, or like my best friends or whatever, I'd put in pictures of the two of us. or just like meme people. Like if I brought them up a lot in the journal, then I would put a picture of them in there. So it's kind of cool because now, I mean, obviously everyone's growing up, so a lot of the pictures have been taken down, and I can still remember the people from those pictures, even though it's really kind of creepy and stalkerish-y. Even though I thought that at the time, I'm like, I can appreciate this when I'm older, and I have, so. And then first, did I start collaging or drawing? I think I collaged more than I drew, but I never really did either regularly until I started doing both. So I would say a little bit of both. Probably collaged more, and first probably. And how have I overcome the fear of people discovering a dark corner of my soul? Well, I guess there's a couple things. I guess sometimes I'll put sticky notes over things in my flip throughs if it's really personal. Sometimes I'll vent and I know even when I'm writing it, like, this is just temporary, I don't really feel like this, I'm just really overwhelmed with the situation. So I don't really like to count that as almost like a fact, because it's just like a really momentary relapse of being emotional, like super emotional about something that I don't really feel like that generally. So I don't really like to post that kind of stuff because I don't really feel like it's reflective of who I am. But I think I've always been really open to sharing my story and sharing what I've been through with the hopes that it could help someone else. So I guess I share from that perspective, and that's why I'm not so afraid to share, because I'm sharing for a purpose and for a better reason. And I guess I'm used to talking about all my problems because I've been in counseling and all sorts of things for a while. But generally I'm pretty happy, and I don't really like to go too much into the dark parts, but I feel like if the moment strikes or it could be helpful for someone, yeah, by all means, I don't mind. Are you comfortable talking about private stuff? What did I write? Oh, I think that was part of the same question, which I kind of answered, I think. And am I afraid someone will read it without permission? Yeah, for sure. When I've lived with roommates and stuff, and I actually tailored what I wrote about them based on maybe if they had read it, because I'm thinking, well, with the chance that they could read it, I don't want it to make like the situation awkward. Like, this is my living situation. I don't want someone to be uncomfortable, especially if it's just, again, like a momentary something I'm frustrated about, and then they read it and they're like, oh my gosh, she hates me or something. And you know, obviously that's not reality, or if it was something major, I'd bring it up with them. So that's why I try not to include that about a specific person if I'm living with them, or I just bring my journal everywhere with me, which I usually do anyway, because I like drawing in it in class if I'm bored. Who do I journal for? Well, when I was younger, so when I first started, it was literally just for me. So I was very private. I didn't really read it to anyone. I didn't want anyone reading it or seeing it, because it was very, I mean, it wasn't creative, and it was very explicit and very venting and very, again, not very included thoughts when I was really upset about something or really kind of fixated on something, and I didn't want people to think that that was who I was, because even though that was a part of me, it kind of, that part of me filled up most of the journal that didn't really include like the creative part, the fun part, because it was just for venting. So it made me look like a really negative person, because that's what I had used it for. So I didn't like people to read it at all. But when it became more creative, I felt like the content kind of helped it be. Landing on my hand. Oh, maybe it's just a fly. There you go. Once I became more creative in my journal, I feel like the content became more positive. So ultimately, I I journal for me, but then again I'll tweak it if I'm living with someone. So I guess in a way I'm considering them when I'm journaling. And sometimes I find a hard time really being blunt and honest in there if I am with someone that could potentially read it, which can be frustrating because I like to be really open and feel comfortable saying anything in there. Do I keep my journals? For how long and where? So yes, I have all my journals that I've ever written since I was 12, and I have them in. Someone's eager to get home from school. I don't blame them. I have a hope chest, it's called, where it's filled with all my journals, and it's kind of almost full, so I don't know where I'm gonna keep them after. I took a picture of them a while ago. I forget how many I had. I think I had at least 20 that were full. And I have a couple half full ones. And I made kind of a pact with myself within the first couple years I started journaling, where even if I didn't like a journal, I would finish it, because I would kind of get bored of the cover after a while, and then I would just be like, okay, it's done, but there's half the pages left. And then I just ended up having a whole bunch of journals with blank pages, and I knew it was taking up space, so I said, look, I'm gonna finish each journal from now on. And so that's kind of more or less what I've done. There's a couple where I did skip off. Oh, now there's a plane. Someone's flying to school. Helicopter. And yeah, I always want to keep them. I don't want to get rid of them. I started to kind of take pictures and put them in PDF files so I could have them digitally, but I haven't really kept up with that too well. I guess these YouTube videos kind of help. And then what do I want to do with my journals when I die? And she wrote, morbid question. You know, it's funny, I've actually thought of that, and I actually put it in this will I wrote, but I don't really know if it's a real will because I just wrote it in one of my journals actually. Yeah, basically it just says all my money goes to whoever takes Kobe, my dog. And please put my journals in some sort of, like, they have journal projects where they'll publish journals and stuff, and I've tried to look into some, but one didn't write me back, and that was years ago, and a lot of them, they want like older journals from the 1900s, so I don't know. Sorry about that, my phone died there. So hopefully it captured most of the question about where I want them to go when I die. Basically I want them to be enjoyed by someone or more than one person. Even publicly, that would be great, just for people to understand my struggle and my story. So that would be good. And maybe like the art too, if they like it. And what subjects do I like to write about? So I'm a philosophy major, so I really like to write about everything, especially really weird things. So weird theories that I've read about, or even ones that I've come up with. So I was sitting in class today, I'm taking a class on the religion of Islam and their sacred spaces, so churches, mosques, and I guess for us it's churches. We're actually talking about the Christian churches and how they compare, and there's a lot of parallels, so that's why I got a little mixed up. But I was sitting there, and I'm really interested because I'm a Christian, so I'm interested in the parallels between Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So I actually read an article the other day where someone was claiming that all three of those religions, that they actually have the same God, which is kind of interesting because we use a lot of the same texts. So like Judaism and Muslims, they use the part of the Old Testament, so the Torah, and so we have obviously the Old Testament in Christianity. So we use parts of the same book, and there's a lot of the same stories that we find really important. So it's kind of interesting. to think of it as the same God. I don't agree with that myself in my beliefs, but I was thinking, well, I wonder if anyone's tried to meld all three of these religions into one and tried to practice all the traditions of all three as one religion and with one God. And so that's kind of a really interesting idea that I was thinking, I wonder if that's ever happened. So I kind of like to take strange theories and thoughts that come to mind that usually are disregarded as odd or crazy and kind of try to unpack them. Like, okay, this is kind of weird and may not make sense, but let's consider it a valid thought for a minute. What does that mean for society? What does that mean for religion and for the religions within that? And just kind of exploring, if this was reality or if this happened, what would that mean? So those kind of things I like to play around with. It's kind of fun. I also sometimes do talk about my day, which kind of goes into, I'm going to put the next couple questions in one, because the next questions were, how do I find my ideas of what to draw, and do I draw or write first, and if I write first, do I allocate drawing space? So I could probably answer that all in one answer, because my ideas of what to draw. So sometimes they come from the world around me. Like in class the other day, the teacher said that the projector we use is the oldest projector at my school. So I ended up drawing the room and the projector and leaving enough space, allocating writing space so I could write about the projector after. But a lot of times if I don't have a specific thing I want to write about in the room, I won't allocate writing space in a specific spot or at all if I'm really into the drawing. Or if I'm doodling, sometimes I'll just put a pen to paper without a plan, and usually I leave writing room for that because sometimes I don't feel like writing, and so I'll just doodle and then come back to it later and write something, sometimes completely unrelated, and then usually I do painting separately too, or collaging. So it all kind of comes together. Usually each page takes me a couple, like each 2-page set takes me a couple of days, and I just kind of play around drawing and writing and collaging and seeing how I feel. Sometimes I'll even draw and then come back to it a couple days later. So it's kind of a ever-changing thing. So I really appreciate you asking the questions, and if you or anyone else wants to submit more, I'd love it. And thanks for supporting me, and for everyone that watches my videos. It means a lot to me. So have a good day.